Trish Stratus made her WWE debut on the 19th of March 2000 episode of Sunday Night Heat. Yes, that was 20 years ago, and since then the former fitness model went on to become one of wrestling's most progressive female superstars. It's incredible to look back on the past 2 decades and see everything that Stratus has achieved. A 7-time women's champion, helped influence countless modern-day stars, successfully battled back against how women were used in the early 2000s, and even won the old hardcore title in 2002. Since leaving full-time wrestling behind in 2006, Stratus has been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, opened an award-winning yoga studio, had a memorable comeback match at SummerSlam 2019, and there's even more. You know all of this though, so let's give you some facts that you may not. I'm Simon from What Culture. Hit that damn subscribe button. This is 20 things, because 20 years you didn't know about Trish Stratus. Number 20, she was a huge wrestling fan growing up. A lot of people like to say that Trish didn't like pro wrestling and only snuck in the side door due to her work as a model. That is dirty lies. Trish spoke of loving the industry even before she put pen to paper with her WWE contract, and as she was born in 1975, Stratus would have seen the WWF expanding nationally, and such moments like WrestleMania 6's Ultimate Challenge or the rise of Bret Hart as a single star. And yes, they're both Canadian related, and yes, I'm an idiot for doing that. WWE's 24 documentary on the network revealed that Trish couldn't get enough of wrestling, and for those who still go, well, anyone can say that, go and find a better way of spending your time. Number 19, a uni strike ended her dream of becoming a doctor. Despite all of this, Trish had one grand plan, and that was to become a doctor. She enrolled to study at York University in Toronto, but by 1997, a Uniwide strike had blighted 60% of courses on the faculty, and Stratus's classes were affected. It was time to do something different. And as I can totally understand, Trish started all of this by focusing on working out to power back up and indeed lead her into the world of fitness modeling. Weird that though, right? This may never have happened if it wasn't from, at the time, a negative event, so remember, you just never know. Number 18, she was considered the Arnie of female bodybuilding. Robert Kennedy, a well-respected muscle and fitness publisher, couldn't take his eyes off Trish because he saw what talent and potential she had. Kennedy was so confident in her abilities, he dubbed her the Arnold Schwarzenegger of female bodybuilding. She soon became somewhat of a darling of magazine editors who knew Stratus would shift copies, and she was also tasked with speaking passionately about bodybuilding in the media. Throughout that time, can you believe it, Stratus also repeatedly talked about her love of professional wrestling. So there you go. Number 17, she co-hosted a wrestling radio show. What did Trish Stratus and Renee Young both have in common? Well, they're blonde and Canadian for a start, but also got involved in wrestling before they got to WWE. Young hosted a show called Right After Wrestling on the Score Network, and Trish cut her teeth on live audio wrestling and on various other talk shows. That spot on the law is particularly interesting, not least because the radio broadcast was an in-depth look at WWE and what goes down behind the scenes. So if you can find these old episodes now, you should listen, because it's kind of incredible to hear her talking about non-kayfabe news stories and giving her take. If she had done that when she was employed, probably would have been killed. Number 16, she was the only woman in her training class. After meeting the one and only Edge as she was doing her own thing, Stratus decided to seize the opportunity and enroll in the same training school he had used in Toronto. A short while later, she turned up at Sully's gym and asked head trainer Ron Hutchinson if she could start training. He didn't hide the fact that he was surprised. Stratus would be the only female in his class, and he thought she was going to quit within a couple of weeks. Showed what he knew. Everyone at Sully's would have to eat humble pie when Stratus bumped around like a woman possessed and refused to shy away from hard work. She soon became one of Hutchinson's favourite students, and he went from his first impression to thinking she was going to get to the very top. This time, he wasn't wrong. Number 15, she put together a press kit for WWE. After bumping into Michael Hayes backstage during a talk show appearance, Trish decided to take the plunge and see if WWE would be interested in hiring her. Throwing herself into the idea, she set about the task of putting together a professional portfolio and press kit for one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. The glossy document was designed to look like a magazine and included high-quality photographs from her model shoots and all the other relevant details she thought the boss would like to read about. And it worked because it helped her get her foot in the door. In fact, McMahon was so impressed by the model's professional approach, he was won over, and that doubled when he saw how active she'd been in the media. So always think outside the box, people. Unless that box has a spider in it. Number 14, being a valet frustrated her. Trish wasn't hired to actually wrestle at first. Instead, she was going to be the manager for TNA, and no, we're not going into that name. Just remember it was Test and Albert, and do with the rest as you will. However, this isn't what Stratus wanted. Despite describing the experience as a valuable learning tool on WWE 24, Trish felt the role was a limiting one, and it wasn't long before she got a little annoyed, because, she wanted to wrestle. That makes sense too. With TNA, all she really did was stand by ringside and shout, and she wore a hat. Being the smart nugget that she was, though, Trish knew it was a waiting game, so she bided her time and looked out for any opportunity that could come her way. Number 13, the WWF locker room giggled behind her back. In the meantime, though, the then roster would laugh at her expense. In short, that's called being an asshole. The locker room back then wasn't especially friendly towards the thought of Trish wrestling. The likes of Devon Dudley even admitted on the network that nobody thought she'd last if she took this route. Even Lita, who is now Stratus' best friend, said she thought the same. Many of the female roster doubted that a model who had been hired to quote-unquote look good would be any good in the ring, and it got so bad Trish knew that when the call came, she was gonna have to impress them from the off. In short, Stratus had nobody in her corner at all, and it continued like this for 2 years after she signed her deal. And yes, that's how long it took before she did win people around. It is ridiculous. Number 12, the pressure of Survivor Series 2001 was very real. By Survivor Series 2001, Vince McMahon decided to see how Trish would handle the pressure of becoming women's champion. Don't forget, this isn't the women's division we have today either. Back then it was more of a sideshow, but that didn't make it any less of a big deal for Trish. She felt every bit of tension behind the scenes. It was obvious how people were going to treat her regardless, so Stratus knew she had to prove them wrong. She was also following Chyna, who had vacated the belt when she left the company, and it's why Trish cried after winning this six-pack challenge. Not only was it a huge weight off her shoulders, but it was also the start of a whole new journey, and to finally prove she belonged. Number 11, she worked some notable firsts. From here, Trish smashed it and would go on to rack up plenty of firsts. At Survivor Series 2002, she and Victoria had a hardcore match for the title. While that sounds tame now, that never happened back then. It was all bra and panties and bikini belts. To actually be given the green light to use weapons was massive. Additionally, on the 6th of December 2004 episode of Raw, Stratus and Lita worked the first ever all-female main event in the flagship show's 11-year history. And you never forget your first, and people are still talking about this now, as I am. Not too shabby. Number 10, there is an alternative reason why Trish left in 2006. In 2006, Trish did indeed decide to leave WWE so she could take care of her mother after she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. That was revealed on WWE 24, but it wasn't the only reason she left so suddenly. Trish was content with how women's wrestling had progressed and believed things were in good hands due to fresh talent like Mickie Jamess. This is something she told Vince McMahon when she said she was on the way out, but did agree to stay on and work until Unforgiven in her native Toronto that September, but after that she was gone. So there is every chance Trish would have left either way, even without the tragic circumstances around her mother. When you've got to the top, where else are you meant to go? Number 9, Lita is the godmother of her first child. Kind of a big change, given that when they first met, Lita doubted her skills. Since then, though, the relationship had progressed as super friends and they frequently traveled together. So when Trish gave birth to her son Maximus in 2013, she asked if Lita would like to be the kid's godmother. Weirdly, Lita said no, but that's also a lie. Lita kind of paid that back when she picked Stratus to induct her into the Hall of Fame, and now this is a connection that will never die. Number 8, she collects city-specific shot glasses. If you happen to work in a bar and Trish Stratus comes strutting through the door, make sure you have a shot glass with the name of your home city on it. She is an avid collector of city-specific shot glasses, and that's probably something you didn't know. In a 2003 interview with the Evening Chronicle in Newcastle, Trish promoted an upcoming WWE UK tour and said she makes to pick up at least one of these from every city she visits on her travels. Given how far WWE wrestlers do go, I'm guessing she just has a room that's filled up with these. That would be one hell of a weird room. Number 7, she turned down a WrestleMania 25 spot. The Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal from 2009 will forever be remembered for Santino Marella dressing up as Santina and winning it. Things might have been different had Trish not politely declined the offer to work the match. According to comments made during an interview with Slam Wrestling, Stratus fancied sitting back home and watching the pay-per-view with her family instead. And that was all that happened too, don't try and stir it. WWE phoned her up, she said no, and Both parties went their separate ways. So now you know. Number 6, she asked to lose at SummerSlam 2019. First, it was just going to be an autograph signing, but Stratus had toyed with the idea of one more match for a while, and being able to do that in her hometown and officially retire sounded nice. So Trish picked up the phone herself and pitched a match with Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam. WWE naturally loved the thought of that, and it all happened, but she also asked to lose so she could go out on her back like a proper old-time wrestler. Number 5, Charlotte was her only choice. Yep, if WWE had thrown anybody else in there, she would have turned the idea down, which would have been weird because it was her idea, but whatever. Back on WWE 24 though, Trish said that nobody else even crossed her mind when she thought about having one last match. So that was kind of a big screw you to Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Natalya and others, but Stratus saw Charlotte as the biggest female on the roster, and that's who she wanted. Let's face it, that's a huge compliment to the Queen, and the two had a good match at the event, even though now there's rumors she could be coming back once again. Once sports entertainment gets in your blood, you can't get enough. Before, WWE fans almost sullied her Hall of Fame speech. Being inducted into the 2013 Hall of Fame was a huge honor for Trish Stratus, as you'd expect, but fans in Madison Square Garden that day almost ruined everything. When Trish thanked her husband Ron for his support over the years, the New York masses booed. At first, it seemed like this was some light-hearted banter from the live crowd, because maybe they were jeering Ron in jest, as he was lucky enough to be Trish's husband. And sure, that's fine, but maybe it was a little far to chant "We hate Ron" at the person who was having her moment in the sun. So here's a short note: trolling family members is not the best look. The end. Number 3, she's the real longest reigning champ. Wrestling fans will always point to CM Punk's lengthy 434-day reign as WWE Champion as the longest in the modern era. Unfortunately for CM Punk supporting statisticians everywhere, that is simply not the case, because Trish Stratus has a much longer reign as a world champ. Her 6th stint lasted 448 days. Trish beat Lita at New Year's Revolution on the 9th of January 2005 and held that belt until losing it to Mickie Jamess at WrestleMania 22 on the 2nd of April 2006. So not only was that longer than Punk's, but it was also the lengthiest women's title reign since Rockin' Robin's 502 days between 1988 and 1990. So there you go. Go throw that at people on Twitter and watch them get really mad. Number 2, she knew about Mickie James's gesture at Mania 22. Mickie James landed herself in serious hot water with Vince McMahon when she performed a certain gesture inside the ring at WrestleMania 22. There may be kids listening, so I'm not saying it out loud. The boss reprimanded James for her behavior backstage and said he wasn't a fan of that choice and that she shouldn't have gone off the cuff. But in an interview with her official website in 2017, Trish admitted that she'd known about Mickie's gesture before they went to the ring. In fact, both had planned it out as a funny little spot that would have suited James's obsessive character. He just didn't think to tell anyone about this because it's easier to plead for forgiveness than ask for permission. Number 1, the Rock and Hulk Hogan told her to go and get it. At WrestleMania 18, Trish stood behind the curtain with Lita and Jazz to watch The Rock vs Hulk Hogan. Their women's title three-way would be going on straight after Icon vs Icon. They wanted to get a feel for the live crowd before going to work. In another interview with her own website though, Stratus told a story when Rocky and Hulk returned backstage. They didn't just stroll past them and instead stopped to offer some words of encouragement to the hometown girl, or simply said that she should go and get it. That G'd Trish, Lita and Jazz up more than some might think. While it was always going to be near impossible to follow one of the best Mania moments ever, it was the extra impetus she needed to try and keep the momentum going. Know of any other things that nobody knows about Trish Stratus? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture. Congratulations to Trish, and I will talk to you when I talk to you.